Hey, real quick, thanks for stopping by. Now would be a terrific time to subscribe to the Solid Verbal for college football videos all season long.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrandt. That fine gentleman over there, back from his travels, traveling coast to coast, playing on the ATP Tour. Dan Rubenstein, sir, welcome back.
Thank you. I was in Big 12 country, Ty. I was in just outside of Cincinnati, to be clear. I went to beautiful Mason, Ohio to watch the Western and Southern Open for about total 6 hours, for about 24 hours of back and forth travel and staying. And it was wonderful, and did pass the University of Cincinnati, past the Bengals Stadium, past the Reds Stadium. Didn't get to spend any time in the beautiful city of Cincinnati. It seemed beautiful. I don't know anything either way. But highly recommend. Had a great time, and it made me that much more energized getting out and about for this upcoming season.
Beautiful. Well, it's wonderful to have you back.
Thank you.
And we welcome all of our verballers back to the show. It is getting closer. Getting closer. We did all of our conference previews. We had a chance to ruminate, to let some of our thoughts fester and come to a boil. I'm using all sorts of mixed metaphors.
No, it's okay.
Today is the prediction show where we've got predictions far and wide, actual predictions, some of the more abstract fantasy things, variety as well. We are going to just lay it all out here. If you want to save this episode to use against us later, for all the haters out there, this would be the episode that you'd want to make sure you hit download and save to your podcast roll.
What percentage of your predictions are you willing to stand by today? Like, you're like, no matter what, I'm standing by this, and
100%.
Will you apologize if you get something dramatically wrong?
No. This is the no apologies episode.
No apologies, and you will own it. Like, yep, I screwed that up, but you know what? At the time, it was a defensible position. Defendable?
No apologies tour right here.
No apologies. Here are the receipts. You can use them all season long, and the only thing is, if you are going to say, yep, Ty was totally wrong about Oklahoma, you also have to come correct, Ty? Is that the term? You gotta be reasonable here and say, you know what? But he nailed the Pitt thing. You gotta say it. If Ty nails something, you gotta give credit where it's due. So if one of these hits, for me, for Ty, whatever. If Ty is just like, I know this is out there, Cal's winning 10 games. If one of these hits of however many predictions you have, which is how many?
I have many. I didn't even count how many I have.
I have 16 down here, okay?
Yeah, I probably have around there.
16 predictions. Only need one, right? The old adage for like TV networks, you just need one hit, and then you can build up. You just need one hit. So I don't care if I go one of 16. If I nail one, you are going to hear about it for the next 11 years.
That's why people listen to this show, Dan.
I know.
As always, make sure you follow along on social media. If you agree, disagree, feel indifferent on one of our predictions, just let us know. We're at Solid Verbal on pretty much every social platform. We're also out on YouTube where you can watch this episode. Solid Verbal is the handle there as well.
Yes.
And last but certainly not least, if you're a podcast listener, make sure you hit follow or subscribe. It's great to have new people this time of year, Dan. Verballers.com is a Patreon. We're going to be making big updates, hopefully in time for our next episode. So stay tuned for that. Shall we dive in?
Yes.
That's been my hypothetical, my prediction sound for many years running. I now have the full depths of the soundboard ready to go.
Whoa. Mid-season
full
form.
complement.
Yeah.
The full Monty. Everything is here. You want a little letdown look ahead?
Look at that sandwich.
I can do letdown look ahead. You want shootouts? We can do shootouts. Whatever you want, just let me know. I'm ready to go. I'm getting ready here for the season.
We might need some new sounds, too. Every year we're adding to the board.
Oh,
so
we
I just
do.
need
We need
to
the
stay on
Yanni
top of it.
sound. Can you make the Yanni sound?
I will make the Yanni sound for Yanni Karloftis. Okay, how are we doing this? Are we just going back and forth with predictions?
I think we're going back and forth.
Okay.
I have a number of over-unders that I think would be a good starting point.
Okay.
Because these were ones that, as we were going through our conference previews, I put a little asterisk next to the teams that I was interested in, and I went back and I think came to a reasonable determination on which ones I would actually put my money behind. There are some that I liked. Like, I kind of liked Virginia Tech because the schedule was Miss Murder.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't brutal, but at the same time, it's like Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
We have so many questions about Virginia Tech. Do I really want to put my money there? No. The answer ultimately for me was no, even though I do kind of like them more than I expected.
Right.
I put together a list here of teams that I actually would put and probably will put some money on.
You adore these numbers, is what you're saying. You adore
I
the
do.
following overs and unders. You would drive these specific picks to the airport. You would help them move. Okay.
I would.
Okay.
Number 1, Michigan over 10.5.
Okay.
Michigan has the easiest schedule in the Big Ten, and that is not a reflection on how good the team is. I got this comment a lot in the Georgia video, actually, that we posted out on YouTube. People were saying, well, so what if they've got an easy schedule? There's still national championship Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
These are mutually exclusive things. Having an easy schedule does not mean you're not a good team. I'm picking Michigan to win the national championship.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Is that a sub prediction?
You could argue that this is a sub prediction of that prediction. Okay. We'll get to that in due course. But easiest schedule in the Big Ten, not a reflection of how good they are, but easiest schedule. They miss Wisconsin and Iowa from the West. The schedule is backloaded with road games at Penn State and Maryland. Maryland kind of a sandwich spot before they get to that home tilt against Ohio State. For me, it's just a math problem with Michigan. It's not a talent problem. It's not a coaching problem. It's a math problem. In order to hit the under 10.5, they have to lose probably to both Penn State and Ohio State. And I think there's a chance they could lose to one of them, but I don't think they're losing to both.
Okay.
And I don't think they're losing anybody else in the schedule, given the way that they're built, especially from the lines out. This is a very, very good team. So over 10.5 to me feels like a near certainty.
Okay.
Do you have the receipt sound? Do you have the receipt sound at the ready?
I may have replaced it. Let's see what I have. You're putting me on the spot here. How do I even use my soundboard, Ty? Receipt.
There it is.
There it is. See, I'm not a Ty. So do you feel like we've become too Michigan positive on this show? I mean,
that'll change by week 4. You know that.
I know. I'm just wondering if we
I've
need to
been
go the other
browbeaten
direction.
by all the Michigan folks who have been sensitive over the years.
I like fading Ty confidence. I like that. So if this
Ty
means
against the
anything, I
world.
have something. If we want to stick with this theme of Ty confidence, I have a prediction.
Oh,
about
go ahead.
of-
Let's just
of
go
my
free
own.
form here then. Free form.
Well, I don't want to interrupt your over-under picks.
Oh, okay. Michigan over 10.5.
Okay.
You can get to the Ty confidence thing in a little bit. I'm also on Oklahoma over 9.5. I called this one out when we did our Big 12 preview. The offense will be very good. There are 4, 5, maybe 5 teams on the schedule that I think can possibly score with Oklahoma. The talent level is so high, I'd be stunned by anything 9-3 or worse.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to give Venables a mulligan. There were issues with last year's team that kind of extend beyond just him being a first-year coach. So I'm pretty bullish on over 9.5 for Oklahoma.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You think everything is fixable? And look, some of it was injury, and injury is obviously fixable.
Right.
And health always sort of regresses to or advances to a point where everything is kind of even for everybody. You're not going to be decimated by injuries every year. So between injuries, between an infusion of talent on both sides of the ball via recruiting in the portal, you think Oklahoma is their appearance is a 10-win team to you?
It is. I mean, I could see him losing to Texas.
Sure.
I could see Texas losing to Oklahoma. But I don't know that there are 2 other losses on the schedule for them to hit the under.
Okay. Keep going.
Kansas State over 8.5.
Ooh, okay.
I love
Spicy.
me some K-State.
They've got a very good offensive line. Trayshawn Ward should eat. Will Howard remains to me the probable best quarterback in the conference.
I'm in on K-State, baby. It is
some big defensive losses.
It is one of the easiest schedules in the conference. They've got one of the best coaches in the conference. I think we're slowly coming to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Obviously won the conference last year. Certainly not without questions this year after losing playmakers, Deuce Vaughn, most notable among them.
Yep.
But this is a bet on the transfers working and the defense not bottoming out.
Yep.
Because they are almost completely gutted on defense at this point. So I think the line reflects that skepticism with respect to the defense, but I don't share it. I'm in on K-State over 8.5.
Yeah. Okay. I don't hate it.
Miami over 7.5, Dan.
Okay.
Getting spicier as I kind of ordered these
big
from.
leap. Yep.
I think Miami is too talented to go 7-5.
Where?
That does not mean they won't go 7-5.
Okay.
Does not mean they won't. I just feel like I am buying into the narrative that I read in every preview publication that Miami is too talented.
Yeah.
7-5. I think they're too talented for 7-5. They're built from the lines out. TVD was hurt last season. There are only 3 teams on this schedule with more talent. And there are 6 games on this schedule that I look at and I say, those look like guaranteed wins to me.
Okay.
I'm betting that they can pick up 2 more along the way to get to 8-4 at a minimum.
Okay. I think Miami's offensive line is going to be leveled up. I think their skill position will be better. I think their cohesion on offense will be better. They were just a mess there last year, especially with TVD hurt. The thing that I would worry about if I were Miami is I still don't think they're good enough to beat a bunch of teams by 2 or 3 touchdowns that they should beat by 2 or 3 touchdowns. And then it's Mario Cristobal in a tight game. That's what you're wagering on. That he's going to win games by 3 instead of losing by 3. Okay.
By the way, these are the types of teams that will make the difference on our grand total game, which you can find out at footballers.com. You pick the over-under all 69 Power 5 teams. All 69 Power 5 teams, winner gets a cool prize pack.
Yes.
All right. So if to the extent that any of this is instructive, I don't know. But these are going to be some of my picks.
Okay. Keep going.
Kentucky over 7.
I like this.
The schedule is not easy. It does get tougher as the year goes on. My concern with Kentucky is the line. The line was bad last year.
Yeah.
This is a bet that they can get their line sorted in September when there are 4 very, very winnable games in time for the rest of the way. I don't think this is a 6-6 team. Not with Devin Leary, not with Liam Cohen coming back. The defense should again be pretty solid, so I think you're starting at a really good point with the Cats. Just we have come to understand that the defense will be fine.
Yep.
This is not a 6-6 team. Even if they go 7-5 and you push, fine. But for me, this is not a 7-5 team at all, and I'm actually quite bullish on Liam Cohen coming back.
I like the combination. I'm unclear how I feel about Devin Leary as a top tier SEC quarterback, even though he has good experience. It's more like I'm buying these Kentucky receivers. I like the potential of Liam Cohen with these receivers, getting creative, using them all over the field. I like that. Next.
Yeah. Next up, I've got Pitt over 7 wins, Dan.
Smart. That's what they do.
It is. There are questions about the defensive line this year, i.e. where are the pass rush people coming from? Who are the pass rush people? Pat Narduzzi almost exclusively builds pass rushes every year. Even if you don't know who the pass rushers will be at the start of the year, he finds them.
Yeah.
And he happens to feel pretty good about what he's got coming back. It's just you don't have like an Aaron Donald, right? You don't have the name up front this season that everybody is going to be worried about. It's just going to take some time, I think, for that name to develop. There aren't 5 losses here. I do think that Phil Jurkovec will be pretty good now, being reunited with Frank Signetti, coming home to Western PA. I think that will actually work out pretty well. So I'm pretty high on Pitt.
Okay.
I was like an 8-4 team.
Yeah.
But over 7 to me. 2 more. Cal under 5.
Okay, so new offensive coordinator, new quarterback, losing a couple playmakers, but still have a couple playmakers on offense. Defense gets a lot healthier, but the Pac-12 seems to be heavier at the top. So
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I said this when we were doing our previews, that I would put 1 month's mortgage on Cal's under. I'm not actually going to do that, full disclaimer.
Yeah.
But just as a means of like illustrating how serious I am about this point, we have lovingly referred to Cal as a California sandwich company. At least I have, because they constantly are playing some of the better teams in their schedule in weird spots. They've got Oregon, Oregon State, USC, Utah, and Washington, all in advantageous spots on the schedule. Unless you have an unwavering belief in Sam Jackson V, the transfer from TCU, who I think will be fun and interesting in this new offensive scheme, unless you've got that unwavering belief, I don't think there's any way Cal is going over 5. They may get to 5, but I think the odds of you actually winning this bet are very low. They're not a 6-win team. They're just not. So under 5 for me with Cal.
So the good news with Cal, if you're a Cal fan, is they almost exclusively, until recently, win non-conference games against Power 5 opponents. And they have one this year who's starting over and has a new look roster, a new coach in Auburn, yes?
Mm-hmm. They're not beating Auburn. They're not beating Auburn.
But wouldn't they? Wouldn't it be just like Cal to beat Auburn and then lose to like Arizona State?
It would, but they're not beating Auburn.
Okay.
They're not beating Auburn. Under 5.
Under 5. Okay.
Yep. And my final over-under recommendation, shall we say?
Yeah.
Vandy over 3.5.
I have something similar.
Yeah. Vandy's got a ton back.
Yeah.
They start the season with 4 winnable games.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of improvement on defense, like a lot of teams that we've discussed. A little bit of improvement on defense, and they could get to 5 wins. So I actually like this pick a great deal. The over 3.5. I think Vandy's probably not going to go to a bowl game. The schedule is too tough.
Yeah.
But with the production they've got back, I think with a good coach who will be able to tune the defense up a little bit more, I'm going over 3.5.
Say the number 12 out loud right now.
12.
Okay, my number 12 prediction. Vandy's making a bowl game.
Wow. So
Yes.
you're over. You're definitely over then.
I'm over on Vandy. I think they make a bowl game. I think there is something about winning close, which they were able to do near the end of last year. The continuity, I like Clark Lee. I think Vandy might be the team that too many teams pencil in. And perhaps, again, when you look at the early part of their schedule and then later on in the season, if I have Vandy's schedules correctly, I'll verify this as correct now. But they finish with South Carolina, Tennessee, Auburn, Ole Miss. Any one of those teams you could see being in weird disarray in November. And there's Vandy, little old Vandy.
Weird disarray.
Which is
All right.
how you've described your high school years.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any more over-under picks? Or
No more over-unders for me. What do you have?
Okay. Give me a number between 1 and 16. Actually, 1 and 14 that is not 12.
13.
13. Tire Dan will lock up a team that loses by 28 plus outright. I don't have a lot to expand on.
Lock of the week.
The scream is you at the end.
It's been an off season of supreme confidence
Yeah.
and you falling in love with teams coast to coast, schedules coast to coast, and both of us, I think, will linger a little bit too long on a team just to save face. Be like, I told you in May. There's going to be somebody that we pick outright that is going to lose by at least 28 points.
There's going to be a team that I put in my playoff that I think meets all of those prereqs. All of them. We'll get to that in a little bit.
It's also one of those things because of the swings in roster, especially teams that utilize the portal more than others that you talk yourself into between January and late August. And come like September 22nd, it's easy for, I'll speak for myself here, it's easy for me to say, they're just gelling. They're just gelling. I'm still going to lock them up. And Auburn loses by a crazy amount to somebody good. Or, that is one of those things where the portal affects me in unrealistic ways. And that's a selfish one. That's a prediction. It's an inter-show prediction, but I can see it happening.
Give me number 9.
Number 9. This also, it's not internal. Ty liked Wisconsin too much for too long this offseason. Wisconsin will either lose to Wazoo or Purdue because of it, possibly both.
Both.
Okay. So it's a Wisconsin program that is going through a ton of change. It's not an internal hire. It's not a Wisconsin guy. The Wisconsin guy hire would have been Jim Leonard, interim from last year. And there is something about changing things on offense, what they have to change on defense, and they still have a good amount to like on defense. But I still think in September they're going to be finding their way under Luke Fickell. I think Luke Fickell is going to be an incredible coach for Wisconsin. But Ty, looking at this schedule, and this is a totally realistic thing to do once you look at this schedule. Like, this is pretty nice.
It's a great schedule.
I am just that. I don't know if that's it's a takey prediction, whatever, but I'm not there in the way that you are still. Whereas with Wazoo, who is changing a ton, loses a ton to the portal, loses a ton of assistant coaches, but the game is in Pullman, and I think it's at Purdue as well, that there is something chaotic about early Wisconsin under Luke Fickell that he will get straightened out in the long term magnificently, but that's my prediction.
See, I think they're going to hit the ground running.
Okay.
I really do. I think they're going to hit the ground running. It's not like you're giving Phil Longo Graham Mertz. You're giving Phil Longo Tanner Mordecai, who's an established quarterback who's played at a really high level at his previous stop. What once was at Oklahoma, right? Before coming over from a G5 school. So, like, I don't know. I don't buy that. I think the schedule is very advantageous. I think they've got enough talent on hand to be really, really good. And I think it's reflected in their over-under, which is like 9. So it's pretty high. They're a top 25 team per the preseason AP top 25.
I hear you.
Whatever that's worth. So I'm pretty bullish on Wisconsin. And I wanted to be more bullish. I just kind of have been in this situation before with the new coach who I respect coming aboard, has a lot of talent on hand. They're changing things in a way that I think is modern and long overdue. And everybody's excited about it. And I tend to get too excited. So you're not wrong in saying that.
Right.
You're not wrong at all. And I could 100% see this bet hitting, but I feel really good about Wisconsin.
So the reason, the cause for pause, your favorite pet charity with Tanner Mordecai, a pretty dramatic split between when SMU played Power 5 teams and teams with a winning record versus down teams. SMU beat up on a lot of down teams. And so I think there is a little bit of stat inflation there that not everybody, but I think there is this assumption that, like, all right, he's leveling up. I don't know, man. American defenses aren't quite what he'll be facing on this schedule. That's all.
That's fair.
That's all I worry about.
All
Okay.
right. Give me number 5.
Oh, we're just rifling through. Here we go. Number 5. Let me pull up. Here it is. Boise State is going to beat Washington, who will then go on to run the table during the regular season.
I like this one.
So this lands on the heels of what we say every season. Don't be confident in week 1. The big change happens between week 1 and week 2 when everybody sees what they have. And what Boise State does and what Andy Avalos does is they confuse quarterbacks. They scheme well. They run weird sets on defense. And even though Boise is replacing a lot of dudes on defense, I think they're going to have something there. And there has been an off season of the drumbeat about Washington and playoff and winning the conference and breaking through once again post Chris Peterson, that I think there is going to be a little bit too long-term thinking on the part of Washington, looking at USC on the road, I think, Oregon at home. So I have Washington losing and then winning 11 straight. How about that?
I love that pick so much.
Thank you.
I love that pick so much. I've got Washington winning the Pac-12, by the way.
Okay.
And I'm standing by what I said during the Pac-12 preview. Washington's good enough to win that conference for sure.
Yeah.
I also think everybody else in the conference is good enough to beat Washington. And I expect a full-on...
Everybody in the conference is good enough to beat Washington?
Everybody at the top.
Okay.
Forgive me. I think that there will be another Pac-12 cannibalizing itself type of situation.
Okay.
In 2023.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have Oregon, you have USC on the road, and you have Utah at home. And so it's tricky, and it's Oregon State right after that, Apple Cup right after that. It's a really tricky November for Washington.
No.
But I still think the combination, I think Washington's in great shape. If the Oregon game was in Eugene, I'd like Oregon in that game. I think they're pretty tight. And if the game were in Seattle, which it is, I like Washington. That's the edge I give. And so I think they're a more complete team than USC. And I think they have more firepower than Utah. So that is the bold take prediction that I have at this moment. But
like
yeah,
that.
Boise State early, week 1 weirdness.
I do like that. Let me jump in. You
Please.
kind of gave me a nice segue to talk about the Heisman odds that I like.
Okay.
You mentioned Washington. Michael Penix right now is 16-1. which
Okay.
I think is a pretty good number, to be honest with you. And I was looking at him relative to a guy like a J.J. McCarthy, who I also think is an interesting name in this discussion.
Okay.
What I like about Michael Penix, though, is I think given that system, it's now going to be, his third year with Kalen DeBoer. I think he has a stronger likelihood of putting up those pinball numbers. And I like that. That plays well in the Heisman race. At 16-1, Michael Penix Jr. is an interesting play for me. I don't like the Heisman Trophy in general, but I do enjoy the Heisman contender conversation.
Okay.
I think Michael Penix at 16-1 is interesting. If you like odds that are a little bit longer and you like Michigan as much as I do, I probably wouldn't go J.J. McCarthy. I still would go with Blake Corum. And I know there's the health concern. He's recovering from the injury. I get all that. I think he'll be fine. He will again be the focal point of that offense. If Michigan has the kind of season I'm expecting, with him as the focal point of full season, full health, 28-1 for Blake Corum feels like a really good number.
Who is the last running back to win?
I don't know.
Derrick Henry, 2015.
It's been a minute.
So if you're talking about odds, obviously quarterback, unless there's a game-changing receiver, which we happen to have in the sport this year, at least one, and Marvin Harrison Jr.
That's right.
Devontae Smith wins it 2-3 years ago. I think you have to stick with quarterback if you're going with a sleeper. I don't think Drake Maye is going to win enough games because his odds are down there.
His odds are down there.
I don't like picking a running back in Corum, especially because he's not a Reggie Bush type. They're not going to split him out in the slot. They're not going to use him in the return game. I think you need that all-purpose Christian McCaffrey-ish type weapon at a running back.
Okay, so hold that thought.
Please.
60-1, Will Shipley, my third pick.
Don't like it. I just don't.
I mean, Will Shipley is more of the Christian McCaffrey type.
Yes, and I think there's a decent shot he ends up in New York. I don't know. I don't.
It's rare that I get to back you into a corner.
Okay, the good news
and I feel I've done it here, and I'm going to pat myself on the back for it.
Will Shipley will be used more creatively, especially with Garrett Riley.
Agreed.
Clemson has the opportunity. It's relatively early on against Notre Dame to have that like Heisman moment game where he has a do everything game to essentially be whatever it is, Christian, any of these all purpose guys that we've seen over the years.
60-1 is a pretty good number.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. The reason I also don't love running backs is they tend to get beat up over the course of a year.
Sure.
Whereas a receiver or a quarterback, I think it gives you a better chance at playing 12, 13 games. If I'm going longer Heisman, Joe Milton is interesting to me.
22? Is he at 22-1?
Something around there. Yeah, Jalen
I
Milroe
looked at
is
him.
interesting to me just because I think he's been running with the ones more, and you're getting an Alabama quarterback at a really nice plus number.
Yeah. The interesting thing about Jalen Milroe is I think that offense is going to be geared. You did the Alabama preview. You could probably speak to this more than me. But I do think there is some validity to your whole point around the SEC being more man ball this year.
Sure.
And I think part of what we're going to see at Alabama is, especially now with Tommy Rees, steering into the quarterback run game.
Yep.
And Jalen Milroe's definitely got that bone. The guy can run, and he's a big dude. I think combined with what they've got at the running back position, which is always strong, that could be a really interesting play. He could put up a really nice stat line in that offense if it goes the way I think it's going to.
The other one, and this is leaning into you more than it is leaning into me, but just in terms of plus money, ceiling, and things lining up for him in terms of spotlight.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Drew Allar. Not Sam Hartman.
Okay.
Drew Allar.
Yeah.
Because he's an unknown quantity, Sam Hartman is up there. He's in like the top 10, I assume, just because of the stage he's on and because of the success he's had already. And so that he's seen as like a plug and play piece. Whereas Drew Allar could come out right away. And I think they have Iowa at the end of September-ish. So he gets that moment to show off. And everybody will know that Iowa has a good defense. So if he can show out against Iowa. And look, he would have to have just a bonkers game at Ohio State. But the stage is there. for Drew Allar to be set up. And they should win a ton of games.
Those are my Heisman picks. My Heisman picks are Michael Penix, 16-1, Blake Corum, 28, Will Shipley at 60.
All right. Give me a number between 1 and 14.
That I haven't previously selected, give me 10.
10 is good, and this is kind of in line with what we've discussed. Okay, I have a couple of these. Number 10, Notre Dame will do some nonsense and beat Ohio State and lose to either Duke or Louisville immediately thereafter.
Yeah. No objections here.
They will beat Ohio State because the game is in South Bend, because they will have a more seasoned quarterback for that moment than either Kyle McCord or Devin Brown. Ohio State still has some offensive line questions, and they will be trying to handle a pretty dangerous Notre Dame front. That I think there will be an electricity, a frenzy in South Bend. Mm-hmm. And I think Ohio State will struggle to consistently do what it wants to do. Early on in the season, it's a good time to get Ohio State. Notre Dame will have an incredibly pronounced letdown immediately thereafter.
Could see it. I'm surprised you didn't make a prediction that Sam Hartman throws like 7 interceptions in that game.
Well, it sort of
it's
goes
implied.
without saying. That is the pick. That is the pick right there. That energy and defense and seasoning at quarterback helps to win that game for Notre Dame in an incredibly raucous home atmosphere. And I think both of those games are on the road. Yes, Louisville and Duke?
I believe so, yeah.
They're both on the road. That was one of my operative phrases of these predictions. Doing some nonsense.
I mean, that it's an interesting pick against Ohio State, because when you think of Ohio State this year, you obviously think of the ammo they've got out wide with Marvin Harrison Jr., with Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming. I mean, they're so deep at receiver. Notre Dame is surprisingly deep in the secondary, which is a new thing for Irish fans. If you followed the team as long as I have, you'll know that outside of a few flashes here and there with individual contributors, to ever be at the point where it felt like they had secondary depth, that just has not happened. That's not to say that Benjamin Harrison can go toe-to-toe with Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know if anybody can cover him.
Right.
But I do think that they're in a pretty good spot from a pass defense standpoint. And so maybe they have a shot. I don't know.
You ready for another number?
Give me number 2.
Number 2. It will be a surprise final season. And this is NFL or retirement, not firing. So it's sort of a positive thing. NFL or retirement, unless it's sort of forced, uncomfortable retirement for someone huge. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh, Lincoln Riley.
You think Harbaugh will be a surprise? I don't think he'd be a surprise.
Not a surprise in the traditional sense that, we've always sort of known that he covets a Super Bowl win in the NFL.
Yeah.
But I think Michigan fans have convinced themselves that it was a flirtation, but this is a long-term thing. Look at how everything is now lining up for him. He's a playoff coach. Michigan is this 2-time champion. Like, why would he leave? This doesn't make sense. The Minnesota thing was the last flirtation.
Yeah, I don't buy that for a second. And the other aspect to that story now is we've made a little bit of hay over the NCAA, the squabble with the NCAA, the negotiated 4-game suspension, which the NCAA has said no deal. No deal. They're actually going to push the envelope on this thing. It is not about the cheeseburger. The vice president of the NCAA came out and said, guys, it's not about him buying a cheeseburger. It's about him giving false statements to investigators.
Which means it is about the cheeseburger.
It's probably about the cheeseburger. Yeah. But nonetheless,
okay.
That is their line, not mine. And that is going to be pushed off into the offseason. So there's a pretty good chance that before 2024, it's going to hit the proverbial fan with Harbaugh and the NCAA, and it gives them a chance to ride out into the sunset. If they should go to the playoff again, if they should win a national championship, that kind of gives him...
I'm just saying he's an option, not the option.
A chance to exit stage left and go off into the NFL. Lincoln Riley is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Day is also interesting, I think, because if we find ourselves in a situation where he loses to Michigan 3 years in a row, despite the fact that they have so much talent in Columbus, you know that the natives will be getting restless.
They already are.
I know they already are.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley, Ryan Day in big games.
Hmm.
And it's crazy that we're having this conversation about Ryan Day, who, again, was...
It's crazy. It's totally
a
crazy.
field goal away.
Yeah, totally crazy.
31 feet away, whatever it was.
I don't agree with it at all. But...
I agree. I agree with the restlessness because... Ohio State would be thrilled to win. Ohio State fans would be thrilled to win a national championship, as anybody would be every year. You can't do it losing to Michigan all the time. You cannot be a long-term guy at Ohio State losing to Michigan in streaks.
Sure.
You just can't. And look, we're getting an expanded playoff, so the likelihood of surviving a Michigan loss and still going far in the playoff has increased. But I think people are growing a little bit tired of losing to Michigan and losing in the playoff because Ohio State recruits like a team that should win a national championship. I don't know, once every 3 or 4 years, 5 years, whatever. And we're getting to be a little bit long in the tooth with that, just in terms of seeing Ohio State national championships. Nick Saban, obviously, given his age, it's just tiring to be Nick Saban. It must be, even though it seems like he loves coaching high-level college football. Kirby Smart, that would be a burnout thing. Lincoln Riley, it would be an NFL thing. And we already discussed Ryan Day, Jim Harbaugh.
Interesting. Wow, that is spicy.
Thank you very much. You want to pick another number, or do you have something?
Give me number 4.
Number 4. Oh, I like this.
I'm not keeping track, by the way,
I understand.
of what
I'll start giving
I've
you
selected.
Okay, I'll start giving you your options. Number 4, if the playoff will have a new team in its final 4-team season, it will be the Pennsylvania State University.
Whoa.
So I know that's sort of
This
qualifying
is spicy.
an if thing. I'm not saying Penn State is definitely going to make it. But if there is going to be a new team, so remember, some of the teams who have gotten a lot of spark and hype over this offseason have actually made the play. Like Florida State has made the playoff. They made the first playoff. Washington has made the playoff. So you could say Texas, and I gave it some thought. And the battle between Steve Sarkisian and James Franklin, to me, even though you're talking about recruiters who have underperformed at times given talent level, James Franklin has still won a Big Ten title, has still won double-digit games in a season. Steve Sarkisian has not, even though new coaches at his previous 2 spots as a head coach both won double digits in their first seasons. Combination quarterback and defense. You give me that defense. You give me the line that's finally come together. You give me the running backs who will form a good one too. It's at Ohio State, but hosting Michigan. That they are the closest team to me that have that combination potentially of quarterback and defense. Continuity with coordinators, right? With Mike Yurcich and Manny Diaz. They've got the home field advantage.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of a team that hasn't made the playoff that I would select to get to the playoff given roster construction this year. Do you have a team that you would go alternatively?
Well, for me, it's Texas.
I know.
It is Texas. And
but there's zero chance you would take Texas over Penn State on a neutral field tomorrow, right?
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. The thing about Texas, though, it's an easier path.
True.
It's an easier path through the Big 12 than I think it will be for Penn State through the Big 10.
Penn State has West Virginia. Texas has Alabama.
Yeah. Penn State's going to roll West Virginia in week 1.
Okay.
They're going to dismantle West Virginia in week 1.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, let's just...
That's not that spicy. They are favored in that game at home.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to drill them.
Okay.
But I think the Texas case is pretty simple. They lost by, 1 last year to Alabama. Granted, this game this year will be in Tuscaloosa, but provided they don't get blown out by Alabama, it doesn't hurt their playoff chances. That's a good loss.
Well, no. It hurts their playoff chances in that their margin is a lot less because now they have to essentially run the table in the Big 12.
Their margin is less, sure. But it's not a bad loss on its face. I think Texas also has the combination of a really good defense and Quinn Ewers, who I believe is a really good quarterback. They've also got a lot of talent around Quinn Ewers, particularly out wide. The line is very, very solid. They are built to win and built to win now. So I know that Texas has been a running joke and that they've not gotten as much out of their talent as they should have for what feels like an eternity since we've been doing this show.
Yep.
But I think this is the year. I really do. So I'm on Texas.
Yeah. I mean, look,
to get into that playoff game.
The counterpoint is they always underperform their talent no matter who the coach is, and now you add in a 7-win Washington coach.
Right.
So that's the easy counterpoint that we.
I get it. I totally get it, and I understand the Penn State optimism as well. By the way, can I set the record straight,
please?
Can I just say, I said it wrong on the preview.
Oh no!
It's deny Dennis Sutton. Deny Dennis Sutton. DDS. Deny Dennis Sutton.
Yep.
I knew better, and I still screwed it up. But deny Dennis Sutton is the name to watch. He's going to be the superstar. Maybe we can make that prediction number 17 for you,
okay.
DDS.
1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8.
8.
Ole Miss is going to do some nonsense like lose to Tulane and then beat Bama or beat LSU, and then beat Bama, period. Or they'll beat LSU and lose to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
That's not even that spicy, it feels like.
It's not. That's very lukewarm.
Yeah.
That's like Ty mild right there.
Yeah. Ty mild. That is the prediction. I just think there's so much variability with a team like Ole Miss, and you've got a quarterback. I don't know if it's an actual quarterback battle, but there's a quarterback conversation at the top. They've got a terrific running back. They're overhauling things on defense, which is a very polite way of saying a lot of dudes left. A lot of dudes left that defense. New coaches, new coordinator. There's something about Ole Miss that is just going to be volatile.
I think
it's a very mild prediction.
One of the more interesting teams in college football this year.
Yep.
Ole Miss.
Absolutely.
In the preseason. Let's do conference champs real quick.
Conference champions. Hit me.
Who do you got in the Big 12? I think we agreed on Texas.
I have no recollection.
We agreed on Texas.
Okay.
I remember. ACC, I had Florida State. Did you have Florida State or Clemson?
No recollection. I think Clemson, but I don't remember.
Big 10, I've got Michigan.
Yeah, I took Michigan as well.
Pac-12, I've got Washington. I believe you took Oregon.
I did take Oregon over Washington, losing in the regular season, winning in Vegas in the final Pac-12 championship game. Which, by the way, subtopic, rumors about the Big Ten playing its championship game in the future in Vegas.
Hate it.
God, it feels so dirty. It feels so dirty to raid a conference and then actually, I know I'm marrying your ex-wife, but could we buy your bed? Is that weird?
I hate it. Don't play it in Vegas.
Nothing
against Vegas. Nothing against Vegas, but just that's not a Big Ten.
It would be a
city.
destination. You have the West Coast presence. I understand the thinking. But I saw that and it felt a little bit dirty.
Just don't do it every year, okay? Don't do it every year.
Okay.
Once every 4 years is great.
Okay.
Rotate among cities, but don't. No.
I took Oregon. Can I give you another sub on that topic of conference champions? There is enough assumption that USC's defense will be awful once again that I almost want to zag here and say USC, sub prediction to your prediction, USC's defense will be fine. They're not going to be great. No. They're not going to be good. They are going to be far less of a talking point this year.
If they're fine, they might be national champions.
No, they won't be national championships with an okay defense, just because I'm not sold on them as a complete team, and in a playoff, you still need a deep defense to win 2 games. But I think they're going to be fine. I don't think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be nothing that we are going to kind of giggle about against Utah.
You can say that about needing a deep defense to win a playoff game, but look at the scores in the playoff games last year.
I know.
There wasn't a whole lot of defense. It was mostly offense.
Well, TCU won their game because of 2 pick sixes, so I would, yeah. Anyway, which is good, by the way. If you can win a game with 2 pick sixes, that means you're a good team.
SEC, I got Georgia.
Yeah. I think I took Bama, right?
I think you took Bama.
Yeah. I took Bama. That's my zag as well, just because there's a lot to doubt and question about Alabama, but I think that defense, especially after a couple of weeks, I think it's going to be scary good. And I think whoever starts at quarterback, even if they're limited as compared to what they had with Tua and Mac Jones and Bryce Young, I think they'll still be a B+.
I've got number 1 Michigan over Texas in whatever bowl game. I've got number 2 Georgia over Florida State.
Okay.
In the other. And I've got Michigan over Georgia.
That's incredible.
In the national
That's
championship.
incredible. I don't think they have the Winter Wonders to be a national champion. The Winter Wonders out wide, the gravitational receivers that put the fear of life into defensive coordinators and safeties. I don't think they have that. They don't have Justin Ross.
Okay.
They don't have Devontae Smith. Okay.
What's
next
your
number?
pick? Do you have a playoff pick, a champion pick?
I think I took Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and Oregon. I think those were my playoff picks when we did this a couple weeks ago for Bleacher Report.
Yep.
I would probably have Georgia three-peating over,
Okay.
I don't know, Oregon or Michigan. 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 11.
Let's go 11.
Brent Key will be this year's Mike Elko.
Wow.
How about that? And I know Haynes King is
Wow.
likely starting at quarterback. I just think there's going to be an energy to Georgia Tech. I think the culture will be improved. I think they're going to be more competent everywhere. I think they've been built up. They've done enough in the portal, and the ACC is weird enough. And look, Georgia Tech always has Georgia to finish out the year. There's a lot to not love about Georgia Tech's schedule, but even so, there's continuity. I think they returned their defensive coordinator, who, by the way, Andrew Thacker, I think is his name. I always like doing medium dives on people. And Andrew Thacker was with Jeff Collins at Temple and played at Furman and was a double major in poli-sci, whatever, and Spanish. I don't know what it is. I love that the defensive coordinator for Georgia Tech is likely fluent or semi-fluent in Spanish. So that put me over the top. It's a completely worthless and useless reason to think Georgia Tech will have a nice year, but I think they can make a bowl game and will be this year's.
Wow. If Georgia Tech makes a bowl game, you're not kidding about Brent Key.
I'm into energy.
tough
I'm into
schedule.
culture, Ty. I just am. And I think the fight they showed at the end of last season, I think can't be discounted. I'm in on Georgia Tech as a cute story, which in this case,
cute story.
in this case, I mean as a compliment. Maybe cute is too demeaning a word. I think they are going to be a quality story. How about that?
Well, I hope so, because they've been down for a while. I'm not fully on board with the whole culture thing. Culture is important, but Jeff Collins also built a pretty interesting culture in a short period of time with the way he steered into Atlanta and the recruiting and tried to sell the program. I thought he did an okay
That's
job
public
of that.
culture. I don't care about that. I'm thinking private. All right. 1, 6, or 14.
Give me 1.
A power not used to quarterback mediocrity will experience it. Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama.
I think it's more likely that we see it at Georgia.
Carson Beck, likely.
I like Carson Beck a lot, too.
As do I, yeah.
I really like Carson Beck, and I think he's going to be good. If I am scoring those, though, the one that I'm more likely to score is probably Carson Beck and Georgia. And even if he is mediocre, they could still probably keep him in there and get away with it.
Okay.
I think they're so good otherwise on that offense that even if he's dropping back and throwing 10 times a game to Brock Bowers on short underneath stuff, or if he's handing the ball off 40 times a game, like Mike Bobo has played that style of football and he's won and scored a lot before. So you might be right and it may not matter if Georgia's the answer.
Okay. The reason why I think Georgia's the answer is even though they are the unquestioned top of the sport right now, it's not that long ago that Kirby Smart had kind of serious issues managing quarterbacks. Be it from injury, be it like Stetson Bennett, JT Daniels, Jake Fromm over Justin Fields. Like it's part of Kirby Smart's story that he has never really hasn't always managed a quarterback room properly. And so that's why I think the answer is there, even though I think we're both in agreement that Carson Beck should be very good. Let's go with
number 6.
Mizzou will have a fun, competent offense. Ooh, how about that spice, Ty?
That is that's Ty medium right
This is
there.
sort of upon further reflection. There is something about Mizzou. I don't love Brady Cook, but I like that they made a change, a coordinator. I kind of like adding Fresno spice to things.
Yeah.
And Kirby Moore.
Well, they need an identity.
They need an identity.
They need an identity. And I don't know if bringing Kirby Moore down is going to help them do that or not. But that is like the two things that have been missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said this time and again about Mizzou. We've talked about Mizzou about 4 or 5 times now in the preseason.
Yeah.
The two things that have been missing on the Mizzou front have been high school recruiting over the long haul. High school recruiting has not been where it needs to be. Obviously, they got a pretty big pickup this week when they got the number 1 defensive line in the class of 2024. So that's a big deal. And I think there are probably going to be other guys that follow him to Columbia. That was a big get for Eli. My hunch is that maybe they can solve that side of it. They just hadn't yet. The second thing, and almost the more puzzling thing, is that they have not had an identity on offense. And it really is confounding given the fact that Eli Drinkwitz came over and was seen as a bit of an offensive guru.
Yeah.
That was his claim to fame. So, yeah, if they can sort that out, maybe taking some of the play calling, some of the offensive duties away from Eli Drinkwitz will help that offense thrive a little bit more, give it the identity that it needs, but they just have not had that.
I think they've got playmakers at receiver, Theo Wees, Luther Burden. They brought in Nathaniel Pete from the West Coast. I think they're interesting enough pieces at Mizzou. They're going to have a fun, competent offense. All right. 7-4 or I already did 4. 7-3 or okay, we've got 3, 7, 14.
Lucky number 7.
Year 2 will be Brian Kelly's quarterback issue year at LSU.
Oh.
And I say that because of Jaden Daniels' injury history, Garrett Nussmeier's ceiling, bombing it down the field as like a 2023. Who was doing that for Penn State? Trace McSorley? Early Trace McSorley, just bombing it down the field against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. There is some of that to Garrett Nussmeier. He's got a big arm, loves going downfield. Jaden Daniels a little bit more conservative. Let's say Jaden Daniels twists his ankle early on. Garrett Nussmeier comes in and looks really good. And then there's that question in week 8 or something.
You know, I have been about a year or two off on a lot
You're
of
a
these
year
predictions.
early. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
I'm a year early on a lot of the stuff that I've put out there.
Yeah.
And that's been a continued trend over the last 15 years. I'm not rooting for that to happen, but I will tell you this. Brian Kelly does not know how to handle a quarterback controversy. He really doesn't.
Yeah.
He really doesn't. And I don't even know if that's a character flaw. For everything
It's
that's
tough.
been said about this guy,
Yeah.
as like this cold-blooded coach who's willing to move on a moment's notice and show up and tell the team for 5 minutes and then hop in the private jet and start doing y'all on the basketball court.
Mm-hmm.
For all that's been said about how he is cold and calculated and somebody who is not authentic, I think he has a hard time. I think he falls in love with all of his quarterbacks. And
Okay.
I don't think he's going to know what to do if that happens.
The counterpoint
I think
is
it will be really tough. Now, 2 good quarterbacks, right? It's the counterpoint.
great position to be in. Yeah.
The counterpoint is we're not talking about Ian Book versus whoever. The counterpoint is when you've got Jaden Daniels, Garrett Nussmeier, that's a pretty good spot to be in.
Yep.
But I like that prediction.
Thank
That is
you.
time medium.
That was a little bit medium spice.
Yeah, that's time medium.
Yeah, and I don't think it's because, clearly Jaden Daniels is the guy right now. Clearly he is. But I'm just saying there could be a window that is opened, right? There could be a little bit of a draft coming through.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's good.
Number
what
3,
do I got left?
3, 14 are the college football specific ones.
Let's do 3.
3, it will be Mac Brown's final season. It will also be the final year of another-ish, because Mac Brown's only been there for a few years, but one of the super tenured guys. So that's Kyle Whittingham, Mike Gundy, Kirk Ferentz.
I could see it. I could see it with Mac.
You see it? I think I see it with Mac.
I could see it.
When you get the coaches complaining about college football these days, which he has, with we've got all sorts of offers offering hundreds of $1,000s for our players. I don't know. He's in his early 70s. I know he loves it in North Carolina. I don't think the game has passed him by. I think what the reality of the game is right now has to be super frustrating for him, and I just don't see it with what North Carolina's defense will probably look like, that I just don't think it's going to be a fun time coaching North Carolina this year.
Drake Maye will be fun as hell.
Oh, of course.
Drake Maye will be fun as hell. And I don't even want to play the losing effort because I think North Carolina will be fine. I think it will be very much Drake Maye against his own defense, though, much like Caleb Williams versus his own defense, like I said when I did the USC preview.
Yeah.
He's constantly going to have to outscore his own defense's ineptitude. bear in mind, North Carolina lost a lot in the secondary, lost a lot in general on their defense, but so much in the secondary with guys transferring out. I don't see new names stepping in and being any better. Like, the story with North Carolina has been for a while that they've got a lot of talent, especially on defense. They've got talent. They've recruited talent. They just have not found a way to develop that talent. I don't know how new names in this case mean a different outcome. It's a coaching thing at this point. So that's an interesting take. Yeah. I could see it. I really could.
And of those three, Whittingham is interesting because you could be like, look, I'm so proud of what I've accomplished and what we've all accomplished here in Salt Lake City. But with the team joining a new conference, it felt like the right time to give a new name, a new face, a fresh start in this job. It's just because you heard whispers about him recently. Obviously, a crazy emotional couple years in Salt Lake City with the roster and the tragedies there. It just has to be emotionally exhausting, and he's done such an incredible job there. So, yeah, one of those three names, obviously, with all the nepotism stuff with Brian Ferentz and a new AD at Iowa, that doesn't seem like a take. We'll see what happens with Oklahoma State, a down year last year, but certainly Mike Gundy has had as much success as 90% of the coaches who've come through the sport over the last 15 years. But, yeah, that was my take there. Number 14, Charles Huff is getting a new job.
Yeah.
In a good way. With what he did at Marshall, obviously beating Notre Dame early on. I haven't mentioned it lately, but finishes the season quite strong, beating App State, beating UConn in the bowl game.
I like Charles Huff.
I just think his reputation is going to be, I don't know to what heights he ascends as a head coach, but I think if they win, 8-9 games at Marshall, he's just a young up-and-comer that he's just going to get, especially with, a turbulent ACC, in that region, I think he's going to be a big name come Thanksgiving time.
Three other notables here,
please,
on my side.
Yeah.
We venture a little bit into fantasy things territory at times with these predictions. I would draft, if we were doing fantasy things live, which we're not doing this year, I would draft as my first pick the Marcus Freeman, Jared Parker. They used to carpool to work together when they both were at Purdue.
That's good.
I'm telling you right now, the announcers are going to get so much mileage out of that friendship that you're going to be sick of it. And there will be a point, as a related note, there will be a point this season, probably in time for week 4 when Notre Dame's got their big game against Ohio State, where I message you surreptitiously and I say, I've now decided I'm watching all Notre Dame home games on mute. That's going to happen. Okay, I'm just saying.
Yep.
Inevitable, that's going to happen, and it won't be solely because of the Marcus Freeman, Jared Parker carpool thing, but the carpool karaoke aspect, for sure, you can draft that one to your
and
own
get like one of those weird
portfolios.
graphics where it's like pictures that are in motion that they're like bobbing in the same car. What is to you, on that note, Ty, what is the most alluring announcer narrative that could possibly exist, right? So you have carpooling. You could have like the old Texas roommate, the Colt McCoy, Jordan Shipley roommate thing. What is the single most alluring thing that no announcer could possibly pass up in learning a fun fact about a coach or a quarterback or somebody that like is going to be a talking point during a game?
I mean, it's any type of legacy situation.
Yeah,
any type of legacy situation with, Marcus Freeman didn't go to Notre Dame, but his great-great-grandfather did.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's got a cousin twice removed who was a psychology major at Notre Dame. Anytime there is that connective tissue from one guy that you didn't know about to his current or another job, the announcers love that stuff.
Right.
They can't help it.
So, yeah, I mean, you have the Laura Quinn stuff where that's just anytime... But it's those two teams playing specifically. So that got a lot of air. I think the number one unavoidable, every announcer is seduced. If you have a situation, and it's already happened, I don't know if it could happen, and maybe it is happening. There's a lot of qualifiers here. If you have a Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor situation, I think Jason Taylor, I'm trying to get this right, I think Jason Taylor married Zach Thomas's sister.
Yeah.
And they were on the same defense, and I want to say it ended badly. I think there's lawsuit stuff, and so then it was ex-brother-in-law in the same locker room. But if you had a coach marrying a coordinator's sister, vice versa, or even player marrying a teammate's sister, or anything in that universe,
Yeah.
I think 12 out of 12 weeks. 12 out of 12 weeks. If it's an Ion TV game, if it's an Espanol game, like I believe who's playing the exclusive Spanish matchup? Fresno State, I think, to start the year. No matter who it is. So that would give you a wife, an esposa. It would be 100% likelihood.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I think in the 2023 season is going to be references to the new look of college football in 2024.
Yes, looking ahead to 24. Yeah.
Whether it's the conferences and the way that they've realigned, whether it's the new playoff system, it's going to be irresistible. It is the subject that's on the tip of everybody's tongue. We're kind of sick of talking about it at this point.
How many, if Game Day has 6 country artists as guest pickers, how many will you have heard of? Or could pick like out of a lineup?
Could pick out of a lineup, probably 0.
Out of 6? I think I could go 1.
No chance. No.
Because one of them's going to be Kenny Chesney. I vaguely know what Kenny Chesney looks like. Yeah.
I'm not sure I could pick Kenny Chesney out of a lineup.
He's just a bald dude. Cowboy hat.
I didn't even know that.
Really?
I just knew that. I had no idea.
That's wild. Okay.
Who was the guy who did the nationwide commercials? That's the guy I know.
Brad Paisley.
Yeah. I could pick him out, but I don't know what his college football aptitude is.
Brad Paisley, I believe, married to the bride of Father of the Bride.
Here's a fun fact.
That's a fun fact. That's all I know about him, really.
I would also draft any reference on the broadcast, to your point, of Michigan's off-season mantra.
Which is?
Beat Georgia.
All right, that they added a beat Georgia period in addition to the beat Ohio period. Yeah.
Beat Georgia.
Yeah, that's good.
I will take the over on the Brian Ferentz 25 points per game thing.
Okay.
Because of the Ferentz fluff-ups.
The Ferentz fluff-ups. Yeah.
I think we need to pay attention to the Ferentz fluff-ups and take over in those Iowa games when they're playing a nobody and they need to drive up the point total so that he can stay around for next season.
I wonder if it was said like Big Ten average 25 a game.
No, it wasn't.
It was across the board. Because they do have, it is meaningful for Iowa to stomp Iowa State if they can. Cyhawk game. Okay. All right.
And my final prediction here, and I hate to end on a sour note, but that's just the way this worked out. I've got Neil Brown as the first coach getting fired. And maybe after week 3 with the backyard brawl.
I don't know how much they owe him. I don't know about that. I haven't thought about that, so I'm not going to make a prediction there. I have 2 positive things to end it on, predictions.
Let's do
Let's end on a high note.
2 palate cleansers.
Number 15, Ty will shoot a tournament-winning 77 in Houston, and it will be captured in 4K. I don't know who's in the Solid Verbal Invitational, but we're having it.
You're referring to the Solid Verbal Golf Invitational?
Yes.
Is this something you think we can pull off?
Yeah, why not?
I did send tweets out about a week ago to Bud Elliott.
It doesn't have to be nice, the course. We can find a muni somewhere in Houston.
I sent a tweet out to Bud and, by extension, Tom Fornelli from our friends over at Cover 3 and CBS.
Yeah.
And both of them are in. Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic, new NBC Sports insider.
Yeah, that's true.
Nicole Auerbach. She responded that she'd be in. I'm not sure if Richard will be around from Split Zone, but if he's around, he and I have been trying to get together all summer.
Bruce golfs. Bruce Feldman golfs.
Bruce golfs.
Yeah. I think we can find this.
Yeah. The Solid Verbal College Football Podcasting Golf Invitational. Don't count the syllables, but hopefully enough star power on hand that we can make that happen. 77?
77.
I'm going to have to hit the sim here because it's going to get cold, and I'll probably be out of form.
That's true. I'll give you time on the range beforehand. I'm not going to ask you to go right out to the first tee.
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
I'll stay loose with like simulators and stuff around here in the meantime. But 77, okay.
Final prediction, also in Houston, Van Rubenstein Part 2 might become so big that we'll need to rent a short bus. That's ultimately my dream, that we have to hire a short bus complete with driver and that I get the PA. Folks,
That would be fun. We did.
next place we're going to is an Al Pastor specialty spot.
We joked about this on one of the Brew and A's that we did over at verballers.com. It is 100% true that after the last Van Rubenstein that we did, we, honest to goodness, were eating at some place the next day and looked to see if we could rent the zero gravity.
Yeah, that's true. The plane. Yeah.
To do the preview in zero gravity. And it costs like $20,000.
Was it 20K per person?
I think it was $20K per, the place that we found on Google.
Yeah. I think I found like a real cheap option for like $12K, but I don't know if that's an excursion.
Do you want to go
cheap
on that cheap? Do you want to do the cheap option with that?
I don't know.
I don't know what's
Probably
involved.
not.
Ask your brother what's involved with zero gravity.
Well, we could, you know what we could also try because it's Houston. I wonder if we could get access to like the astronaut training where you do like the super fast spins and everything.
Oh, man.
It's the zero gravity training rather than actually going zero gravity, and everybody's just hurling like we're on the Sandlot as we're predicting, Georgia, Alabama in the national championship. That would be fun.
We are the only show that can pull off the
true.
stunt preview.
Yeah.
And it's a near certainty that
Ari
we're going
Wasserman
to do that again.
Puking up carnitas. Yeah. Shout out Ari Wasserman, but he would be the one to puke up the carnitas on the zero gravity training spinner.
We are willing to take your suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely.
At solidverbal@gmail.com for what our stunt preview should be.
Yep.
In advance of this year's national championship. But right now, the leading contender, I think, is probably Van Rubenstein Part 2, though. We've had many ideas bouncing around about space.
Tacos are such a great crawl food, and Houston has great tacos. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out.
Solidverbal@gmail.com is the email. Make sure you hit follow or subscribe. Go to verballers.com. We're going to be updating Patreon hopefully next week as you listen to this. Follow along on social media. Watch along on YouTube. Smash the subscribe button, as the kids like to say.
Yeah.
Those are our predictions for the 2023 college football season for that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein. For myself, Ty Hildenbrandt. We'll talk to you all soon. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.